Jasmine Crockett is becoming my favorite person. She is. Because she likes to talk. She talk big mess. She does. She talks. She's a talker. And she has, I'm pretty sure, a serious war chest behind her. She has some powerful heavy hitters. And what was a surprise, what was breaking news last week, Marjorie Taylor Greene is resigning from her Congress House, from being House Representative on January 5th. She's calling it quits. Her and Trump had a falling out, right? And of course, Jasmine Crockett was not going to miss up on this opportunity to talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene leaving Congress. I wouldn't have left. However, come to find out, Trump is endorsing Marjorie Taylor Greene rival in her district for next year's reelection. So she has another Republican that was going to be running against her, and Trump endorsed the other Republican candidate. And if you have Trump's endorsement, 9 times out of 10, you're going to win. And I guess she didn't want to go through that headache. I don't blame her. So I don't think she quit because she was upset. It wasn't an emotional decision. She was being very strategic, and she may run. We're starting to hear rumors that she may run in 2028. But of course, Jasmine Crockett here, honey, was not going to let this opportunity go by without saying a few words.
Congresswoman Greene, what went through your mind when you first heard she was going to resign on January 5th?
You know what? Honestly, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. You're on the other side of the president for 1 week and you can't take the heat. Imagine what it is to sit in my shoes, to not only be on the opposite side of him, but to have people like her who are constantly fanning the flames of hate. And imagine what those threats look like when you literally are someone like me. But at the end of the day, I know that I serve the people of Texas 30. And so my job isn't to be there and necessarily do whatever is going to make the president not be on my back, but instead is to focus on making sure that I can push forward with policies that are positive for Texas 30.
Here's an excerpt from her resignation video. Take a listen.
Standing up for American women who were raped at 14 years old, trafficked and used by rich, powerful men should not result in me being called a traitor and threatened by the President of the United States, whom I fought for.
So she seems to be suggesting that it is their disagreement over the release of the Epstein files that is causing this shocking political breakup. What's your response to that?
I mean, listen, he's upset with Thomas Massie, and so he's gone after him. He's upset with Boebert. He's upset with any Republican that actually signed the discharge petition. But somehow they were able to weather the storm. So, you know, this really speaks to the fact that Marjorie, who has been an instigator of a lot of this hate that we see as it relates to the MAGA movement, you know, it's just interesting that I don't know if she really fully understood how bad she was making it for other people. And now that they're doing it to her, you know, I just got to say, well, why is it that everyone else is able to stand and you can't?
The House Oversight Committee, which you are a member of, said Friday night that your committee is expanding its investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. Do you have any idea what this expanded investigation might include?
I do not at this point in time. Well, I'll say leadership is keeping it under wraps to make sure that we can hopefully not have many more obstacles. If you'll remember, we decided that we were going to put out a subpoena for Ghislaine Maxwell. And the next thing you know, the president's henchman showed up to her cell. And the next thing you know, we didn't have our sit down talk with her, which I imagine would have gone a little differently if we had. So we're keeping that tight-lipped for now.
The chairman of the Oversight Committee, James Comer of Kentucky, says that Democrats are just trying to use these files to smear the president. Just to be clear, do you or your colleagues have any idea about what's in these files, one way or the other, relating to Trump or not?
Absolutely not. I mean, here's the reality. If we did have that information, I don't know that we would need it necessarily to be released. And we know that the Republicans keep saying, you know, figure out what it is the Democrats have done and make sure that you can pull out the Democratic stuff and make sure you get rid of all the Republican names. Listen, I don't really care who is in the files. At the end of the day, right is right, wrong is wrong. And if you are truly about law and order, then we should be looking for who it is that has broken the law and in what ways. And we need to better understand who potentially in government allowed for a lot of these things to take place, whether we're talking about the fake immigration paperwork that we've heard from a lot of the survivors, whether we're talking about other foreign governments that have participated and who it was that allowed for that, whether we're talking about the sham organizations, the sham modeling agencies that were nothing but a front for trafficking. We need to know whether or not they still exist in some other iteration. This is about not only making sure that the survivors get justice, but making sure that there aren't others that are going through a similar system right now.
There was a back and forth this week after you accused former Republican Congressman, now EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin of
So before I continue playing, here's the thing with the Epstein's files for me. Democrats wanted, Republicans want the files to be released. Okay, the files get released, then what? Then what? You're going to see probably a lot of big time bankers that work for JP Morgan and other big time bankers, stockbrokers, CEOs, or just wealthy, powerful people, or not so wealthy. Of course, some politicians locally, statewide, and federal. Okay. And then what? See, the problem with that is you're going to release it. It's probably going to be redacted. And then Pam Bondi is going to make sure that whatever they release is going to be more Democrats in it. It's all a game. Because I understand if you guys are saying release the Epstein's file because we need to know, who was trafficking these women. And then you back it up by saying we are going to pass laws. We are going to go hunt these people down, these entities, these networks of human trafficking. Are you going to call in for bounty hunters or whoever to find missing children and young adults, girls and boys, men and women who are being human trafficked as we speak? What is Congress going to do once the files are released? Where are the bills? Where are the public policies that you guys should already have written up to pass to make sure that Americans are feeling safe, or that a parent don't have to worry about when their kid running away or being coerced online to meet up with a grown man? What are you going to do about it once these files are released? And nobody is having that conversation. It is all a distraction. No, there has been no politician, whether it's Republican or Democrat, that has said we need more laws, better laws to prevent human trafficking. No one is not talking about that. They just want the tea and the gossip.
Accepting campaign donations from Jeffrey Epstein. It turned out it wasn't convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. It was a Long Island neurosurgeon, Dr. Jeffrey Epstein, different person. You corrected the record. However, now the neurosurgeon is telling the New York Post that he is threatening revenge against you. He's going to donate to your campaign, so you have to admit you accepted money from a Jeffrey Epstein, if not the Jeffrey Epstein. What's your response to that?
Listen, if there's anybody else who's alive and decides that they want to donate just so that you'll be on my FEC report, I am here for it. I will take your donation, especially since Jeffrey Epstein is now deceased. I don't think that it will be confusing whatsoever that it was not him, unless he's come back from the dead. So we'll see.
So you are, we're told, weighing a decision on whether to jump into this Texas Senate race, challenging Republican Senator John Cornyn for his seat, although it's unclear that Cornyn will survive a Republican primary. You said you had a meeting this week with pollsters to discuss your chances. Did you have that meeting? And if so, how did it go? Are you still thinking about running?
I am still thinking about running. We did get our polling back. So we are moving on to the next phase to determine whether or not this is would make sense in the moment, and if the infrastructure can be built out in the way that I see it being necessary to actually be able to win, as well as we are continuing to look at the polling on the other side. Listen, they are in a civil war right now on the Republican side as it relates to who will become their nominee. John Cornyn has served the state of Texas for decades at this point in time in some capacity. And right now, I don't know if he's MAGA enough to make it through his primary, but we are evaluating all things and seeing what it would look like to put together a team. And we will make a final decision by Thanksgiving on whether or not we're going to ultimately move forward.
What did the polling information that you got back show? I mean, is it a calculation of whether or not you're going to be facing Cornyn, who might have more appeal to moderates in your state, centrists in your state, as opposed to a more MAGA candidate who potentially defeats Cornyn in the primary that you might, or any Democrat might, have a better chance against?
I'll tell you this, that head to head, we are doing really well against Paxton. I will say that. I will also tell you that we are actually within the margin of error as it relates to John Cornyn. So to be perfectly honest, the only reason that I'm continuing to consider whether or not I do this is because my polling says I can win. That is the bottom line. But at the end of the day, a poll is a poll. And so you need to actually be able to execute on that. So whether it's Cornyn or whether it's Paxton, we feel confident that we can get this done. The thing is, we obviously would prefer to have Paxton.
Right.
So I did a little bit of research. Yes, I did. And it's like, well, why would she prefer to have Paxton? Well, let me show you why. So Attorney General, Ken Paxton is Attorney General for Texas. And his former aides just won a $6.6 million whistleblower case, right? He has a lot of dirty baggage. He does. He has a lot of dirty baggage. A lot of corrupt, dirty baggage. So he fired 4 of his aides in 2024 because they went to the Justice Department to blow the whistle on his corruption. Attorney General Ken Paxton of Texas, and this is why Jasmine Crockett wants to run up against him because they could just drag his ass. The case was sparked when 8 former aides, including 4 plaintiffs, reported Paxton to federal authorities September 2020. I'm sorry, not 2024, 2020, over his relations with Nate Paul, a friend and Austin real estate investor. The whistleblowers accused Paxton of abusing his office to do favors for Paul, including by hiring an outside lawyer to investigate claims by Paul and providing him confidential law enforcement documents. In the days and weeks after the whistleblowers met with federal agents, a development they reported to Paxton, the Attorney General fired them. So 4 of them sued Paxton in November of 2020, alleging their dismissal were illegal under the state law. The Attorney General, Ken Paxton, disagreed, but offered to settle the suit and pay the whistleblowers $3.3 million. However, because listen, $3.3 million is actually more than what they were just granted by a judge. The problem with that, Attorney General Kim Paxton asked the Texas House for the money in 2023. And lawmakers wanted him to publicly answer questions about why Texas taxpayers should foot the bill, basically for his corruption. The House Ethnic Committee began investigating Paxton, and in May that year, the chambers impeached him on corruption and bribery charges based heavily on whistleblowers' testimony. The House investigators claimed that in return for favors from Paxton, Paul paid for renovations at an Austin home that Attorney General Paxton and his wife. Paul paid for renovations at an Austin home owned by Paxton and his wife, and also employed a woman with whom Paxton had an extramarital affair. So he has corruption, he has extramarital affairs, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be some more side pieces falling out. This Senate run is already messy, and she hasn't even announced yet, Jasmine Crockett. After a 2-week high-profile trial, Texas Senate acquitted Paxton for 16 charges and dismissed the remaining 4. The trial cost the state $5.1 million, according to the state auditor's office released in March that was requested by Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. Months later, in the still pending whistleblower case in the state, Paxton said he would no longer contest the facts of the case, despite the fact that allegations by the whistleblowers were similar to the ones his lawyer and vigorously disputed during the impeachment trial. November 2024, the Texas Supreme Court ruled that Paxton and 3 of his top deputies did not have to sit for depositions under oath because Paxton's agreement not to consent the lawsuit made the sworn testimony unnecessary. Paxton also dodged a federal lawsuit, according to Associated Press, when the Department of Justice declined to prosecute him in the final days of the former President Joe Biden's administration. Still, Paxton levied culpability on Biden in his statement to the Tribune Friday night, claiming the House impeachment efforts were in collusion with Joe Biden's corrupt DOJ. So he's calling Joe Biden's Department of Justice corrupt. The Democrats right now is calling Trump administration DOJ corrupt. All of these motherfuckers are corrupt on a state level and a federal level. So this attorney Kim Paxton, he is the ideal candidate for Jasmine Crockett and her loud mouth. She's very vocal. She is heavily backed by the DNC. Her war chest is fully funded. Democrats own social media, mainstream media. Yes, she wants to run against Kim Paxton because she will win. Now, I didn't do research yet on the other guy, Karn or whoever, and I'll do research on him later. But she may just win the Senate. And if she does, God help us. Well, God help y'all in Texas, but senators do vote on laws and policies that affect all of us throughout this nation. But I'm sorry, this right here, Paxton office violated the Texas Whistleblower Act. Yeah. And they were awarded 1.1 and 2.1 million for wages lost and compensation for emotional pain. So the 3.3 million he was going to offer each aide, he wanted the taxpayers of Texas to pay for it. And the state reps was like, well, if you want them to pay for it, you're going to have to tell us what happened. He was like, nope, I'm not going to tell you what happened because I don't want to have to, go into details, but I'll just tell you that I'm guilty. And then you have a judge toss all that shit out, but paid the former aides. A hot mess. Either way, this is why she wants Attorney General of Texas, Kim Paxton, to run for Senate because she know she could definitely win against him. It's a shoo-in. No, I'm not a Democrat. No, 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 no. This is just one of her opponents. See, this is Ken Paxton won't make it out of the primary. Maybe the other guy will, and I forgot his name. Like I said, I'll do research on him later. But Ken Paxton is dirty. And see, this is so going back to the FBA, right? Going back to FBA and this whole delineation. He is not the only dirty attorney general. He is not the only dirty, corrupt politician in your state. Each state in the United States of America has corrupt politicians. They're in Congress, they're in your state Senate, they're in your governor's office, they're in your mayor's office, your city council, they're even in the White House. It doesn't matter if they're Republican or Democrat. It doesn't matter. They're all liars. You should never believe a politician. But apparently, we the people forget that we are the forecasters. The politicians are just supposed to be the presenters. But it's switched. You guys actually think politicians are the forecasters. And they know you think that way. That is why they always take advantage of us. They take advantage of the votes. They take advantage of your vulnerability. They take advantage of you being poor. They only do things for corporations and CEOs and C-suites and wealthy people. Not for us. And Jasmine Crockett, she talked big shit. And maybe she does have a squeaky clean background. And if she gets into the Senate seat to be a senator representing Texas, she's going to be there for a while. And this is what the DNC does. Maxine Waters. Oh, got to play that clip. Maxine Waters, she's about to retire. She's old. Nancy Pelosi is already retiring. Chuck Schumer, he needs to retire. Hakeem is still young. He's going to be there. The AOCs, Jasmine Crockett, that is the future of not only the Congressional Black Caucus, but that is the future of the Democrat Party. Young, loud, socialists, left, woke, everything that is anti really America. They're pro illegals, right? They're pro everything else that's not going to really help America. But hey, that is the future of the Democrat Party.